Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Richmond City Council meeting of Monday, June 26, 2023 to order. May I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Any agenda additions or deletions?
None, Your Worship.
All right. May I have a motion resolving the committee of the whole to hear delegations on items on the agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor, opposed, carried. We have two have pre-registered. So the first one is Devin Cairns, who wishes to speak to us on number 15. Is Devin here? No? Devin Cairns? No? Okay. The second delegation then is Ken McClellan, wishes to delegate on item 22. I think you know the procedure. Come on down, have a seat, introduce yourself, and sir, you will have 5 minutes.
Mayor Brody, members of council and city staff attending and the audience. My name is Ken McClellan. I'm a resident of Richmond, and my concerns involve the transparency or lack of it, as I would see as a resident taxpayer, on some of the city reports, specifically the city annual report and the Richmond Olympic Oval report. The couple of issues, and I'd just like to read a couple of, I'm not going to read this whole thing, I'll read a couple of items out of it. One was from KPMG, and one was, again, just for the last election, there was a poll done by the Richmond News reference citizen consideration or concerns about transparency in city reports. And of the 30 candidates who ran for mayor and council in the last election, 5 said yes to the question. And do you think Richmond City Council is sufficiently open and transparent in how they make decisions? And elected councilors Au, Day, Gillanders, Heed, Wolf, and 16 unsuccessful candidates said no. My concern is, I agree with the no, and I specifically draw attention to the lack of credit for the costs borne by taxpayers to subsidize the Olympic Oval facility. There's no expense identified in the Oval's annual report related to rent payable or tax payable. The city used to provide a statement in the Richmond News alluding to the identifying the amount of tax relief provided to various entities, including the Richmond Oval. That included the latest one in, I believe, October of 2017 for years 2021, 22, and 23. The annual report in 2020 was the last year when that amount of relief for the Richmond Oval was identified in the city annual report. I think there's a little bit of a problem here with the lack of disclosure about the cost of this. The same applies to the fair market rent value for the Oval. The city provides it to the Oval Corporation for $1 a year, and despite all this freedom, there's no credit given to the costs that are borne by taxpayers to pay what the Oval doesn't and has never been capable of generating. That's not a benefit to the city, and it's not a benefit to taxpayers. When the Oval can't generate that much revenue to pay its own taxes with a use of a free $350 million property, it begs questions. There were a couple of things in here. Critics of the Oval contend that it is a financial burden for Richmond taxpayers. This incorrect observation is not borne out, however, by the Oval's stellar financial performance and fails to recognize that ROC board members or directors are respected members of the community who would potentially put their professional and or personal reputations at risk if they were to fail to ensure that the ROC is operated in a responsible and effective manner. I've sought a definition and qualifications for that statement, and I've never received a response. The statement was made by Mr. George Duncan in a report back in March of 2017. Neither the city's annual reports nor Richmond Olympic Oval Corporation's annual reports disclose the cost to taxpayers for the city's gift of relief from annual property tax and relief from fair market rent obligations to ROC for the Oval facility. The city used taxpayer resources to provide this benefit to ROC at taxpayer expense. And the understanding is the declared amount in the later news releases identified the municipal portion of the property tax. It did not include the non-municipal, for TransLink, school districts and that type of thing. And this is less than honest, I think, with the tax-paying public. It's the same thing with the rent. We have no record of the cost of rent relief that's being provided to the Oval. Consider the value of Costco, Superstore, and Walmart together as a combined value of $295 million for taxes.
Time.
Okay. Can I just make one last item? And I'll leave the rest to your reading. But in case of financial performance transparency improvements by staff to benefit council and residents going forward, I urge Councillor Heed, with his extensive background of experience and knowledge and with the support of council, to undertake liaison duties with ROC. And we need some improved reporting, I guess, and the real numbers that are involved in what the public are paying for.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you very much, sir. All right, are there any other delegations who wish to speak to us tonight? Yes, sir, please come forward. Identify yourself, tell us which item you are addressing, and you've got 5 minutes.
James Yu to speak on item number 20. Right. Good evening. Thank you, Council and Your Worship, for the opportunity to speak here today. Just to introduce myself again, my name is James Yu. I am a Richmond resident, 19-year-old PhD student of economics at UBC, and the initiator of the petition to restore the 480 bus. I'd like to express my gratitude on behalf of the UBC community to the Public Works and Transportation Committee for making the recommendation that led to item 20 being added to today's agenda. Tonight, I would like to make 2 or 3 comments on the proposed letter and invitation to TransLink as part of this item. I would like to emphasize first the importance of advocating for a restoration of a version of the direct 480 service and not conceding to alternatives such as expanding capacity on the existing indirect lines such as Canada Line and R4. Non-dedicated capacity would be taken primarily by new riders from these routes' existing service areas and lock out Richmond and south of Fraser students, which creates and has been enabling regional inequity. An increase in capacity on these services does not address the other 2 issues of runtime and transfers along the 2-hour trip each way. Those 2 issues, coupled with overcrowding, are what have been pushing students away from transit and hurting the well-being of existing students, including myself. And I would appreciate this being emphasized in communications with TransLink representatives. Based on my own communications with them, I do not believe that TransLink is respecting the difficulties that long-distance, interregional commuters like myself face in comparison to, for example, intra-municipality commuters, for example. The second is that I would like to emphasize the importance of inviting the TransLink representative early. September is in 2 months. TransLink stated in their recent Mayor's Council meeting that there will be additional overcrowding this fall in comparison to previous years. We have to act now if we want to ensure that the issues currently affecting our communities are not made worse. The third is that I recognize that TransLink staff are the experts in this area. The final decision with the 480, of course, rests with them. However, TransLink has been wrong about their decisions before. I'd like to draw your attention to the case in West Vancouver, where for a long time, TransLink has been informing the public that the pandemic-suspended direct bus route between West Vancouver and UBC should not be reinstated, as alternative service had sufficient capacity and speed. TransLink used exactly this same reasoning as they are now with the 480. But students from West Vancouver found TransLink's arguments to be false, told West Vancouver's council, and this March, TransLink changed their minds and decided to put back West Vancouver's direct bus to UBC. That decision was a result of West Vancouver staff's efforts in communicating with TransLink. Given that their bus route only serves a fraction of the amount of people that the 480 serves, I find it extremely inequitable that TransLink has restored their service, but not also our wider-serving 480 route. And I'm hoping that this council's efforts, with item 20, will lead to an equally positive conclusion for us. As someone I once knew aptly put, hopefully logic prevails. Thank you for your time.
All right, we've got a question from Councillor Wolf.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, through your worship, to our delegate. Thanks for coming again and highlighting the points you've just made. What would you suggest in wording change, perhaps, or emphasis So under our item 20, there's the two parts. There's that the City of Richmond write a letter to TransLink outlining concerns with respect to 480 bus route. Is there something you'd want in or added to that? And then the second one, that TransLink representative be invited to a future council meeting to provide a brief update on 480 bus route. Would it perhaps be the July count, like a July meeting or something like that?
Yes, regarding the first point, I don't think the wording of the motion itself should change, rather that suggestions for what to speak be taken from our perspectives that we have shared for you both in me speaking today, as well as the items that I have sent by email. For the second point, if it would be found, if it would be preferable to have either myself or a representative from the UBC AMS Student Union would be happy to speak perhaps either during or immediately after the TransLink representatives talk in order to provide clarifications as required.
That's not the way it works. We would be inviting them to come and present their point of view. And we would
Understood.
speak to them about it.
Understood.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other parties wishing to delegate to council on items on the agenda tonight? Anyone else? All right, ma'am.
Rise and report.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So that brings us to the consent agenda. The following items have been removed from the consent agenda. 11, which is Ash Street, 12, which is a revision to Ash Street, and 14, which is Metro Vancouver's referral. So what remains on there is the committee minutes, the proposed amendment to the bylaw enforcement officer bylaw 9742, expanding the intermunicipal TNS business license, the seasonal patio and extension of service hours for the grill party on Alexandra Road, Richmond Accessibility Advisory Committee 2023 work program. Then we have land use applications for first reading. Okay, so we've got Ash Street is off there, and the next Ash Street is off there. So there aren't any. I'm sorry? They are both off. Councillor Wolf has requested those two be taken off, and I asked that the Metro Vancouver one be taken off. We have the proposed updates to the RCSAC charter, the Kittiwake Drive Traffic Calming Pilot Project Update, the 2022 Annual Water Quality Report, the Drainage Canal Bank Failure Repairs on Vickers Way, Circular Procurement Policy Implementation and Progress Update, the Dike Master Plan Phase 4 Report, and the 480 bus route. May I have a motion to adopt those by general consent? Moved and seconded. Okay, we'll go to speakers. Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. A couple of items that need highlighting. A great agenda for the city. A lot of wonderful things are happening, and I think the public need to know. I'll be supporting everything on the agenda. I'm happy to see us continue with the seasonal patio program, and it's going to continue to help business, but also provide for our citizens. I did want to give a shout out, Your Worship, for the new committee, which we have a Richmond Accessibility Advisory Committee in the work program. You know, we're very fortunate to have a committee like that within the community, and it's going to help us develop an accessibility plan, and they're going to help us in terms of assisting and looking at barriers within the community for a number of our residents. And it's extremely important we have it. So I give a shout out to them. They've only had a few meetings, and I've been to the meetings as their liaison, and I'm very impressed with the people there, and I want to thank staff and them to keep up the good work, and a lot of good things will be coming from them. And I just want to mention with the RCSAC Advisory Committee, it's just updating that particular terms of reference to get in line with all the other committees that we have. I will be supporting the calming on Kittiwake. To me, it's important that we have calming anywhere that people are asking for it. And staff have come up with a suggestion and something we can implement before the end of the summer or before the break. And we need to hear more from the public in that area. So if you live in the Kittyweek area, please let us know some of your thoughts on it. And but I think it's a step in the right direction. I would have preferred a light on number 2 road has become I guess if you start at the foot of number 2 road, by the time you get to Stevenson Highway, you can do 90 miles an hour. And people tend to speed, and then trying to come out of Kittyweek Drive and speeding there, you come into a T, and it's not the safest area in the southwest area of Richmond. Just on the annual water quality, Your Worship, kudos all around to the residents of Richmond. We're down again another year in terms of volume of water while our population increases. We've got the purest water in the world. Thank you to staff for monitoring it and making sure that we can continue to conserve water, and we reduce and restrict where we can, because it's one of our most valuable resources. And I think Richmond, Your Worship, and you've been a Metro van for a number of years, know that we're stewards of the water probably better than most municipalities. And I pat Richmond residents on the back for that. I'm excited to see the Dike Master Plan, support it. I think we need to revisit it, and I throw that out to council. I've been pushing to move it from 50 years to 30 to 25 years. I think we got to invest more each year. If you read the report, we've had tremendous support from the public to want to reduce the time to address diking. So I think we should take that as a hint and try to get more grants and put some more investment in the diking around Lulu Island. People want to be safe, but more important, they want to feel safe. And my last item, Your Worship, following along Councillor Wolf's comment, the bus route, I support the delegation, did it committee. I think we need to get what their concerns are, as well as what ours were. I think if staff could request a meeting with the delegation, or at least reaching out to a delegation. When I read the resolutions, the resolution is good, getting somebody here to talk about it, but what's going to happen if they just talk about it? I want them to come with a plan of how we're going to improve it. We're going to outline concerns with respect to it, but what kind of improvement do we want? And what kind of action do we want? I guess on that is where I'm coming from on it. So I'd be more than happy to get in touch with the delegation, but I hope our staff would to get more specifics on it. And that's the only way yourself, or Your Worship, could take things to TransLink and be discussing them there. Because those of us will remember when we had the bus dead-headed straight to UBC. We had to fight for that. Well, the bus headed to Simon Fraser University. We had to fight for that, okay? And hopefully those conflicts didn't go on unnoticed and are still in vogue, and students can take a direct bus to UBC. So I'll be supporting everything on that, but I'd like to follow up on that 480 as well. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thanks. Actually, first a question, Your Worship. If I were to call for a wording amendment to something on the consent agenda, would it have to be removed first?
Depends what it is.
So
If
okay.
if it's an easy one, we could do it by consent, I'm sure.
Okay, then I'll start with that. As the delegate and Councillor McNulty were just referring to item number 20 there, the 480 bus route, I'd like to ask for an amendment where we call for this meeting in July. Next week is July. We don't meet in August, and then comes September. So to me, obviously, we should put it in there. Our request is for a meeting in July.
Well, I would suggest, because we can't determine that,
As soon as
just put in, we would put in as soon as possible. Be invited to a future council meeting as soon as possible to provide da-da-da-da.
Hopefully.
Well, I'd still like it to be July, because then if they fail to meet the request, then it shows something from their end.
We can't determine when it's going to be.
Yeah, but I would
Okay.
still like to put.
So it'll be as soon as possible, preferably in July. How's that?
Preferably in July, let's do that.
There you go. Has anybody got a problem with that? No. It's done.
Okay, thanks. I'll just speak to a few items to continue on here. Item number 15, Kittiwake Drive. I drove the length of it on the weekend and observed on number 2 road the speeds that people take. Also aware of, we've received a number of letters back and forth from staff and a resident in the area. And I'd just like to assure public that what we're looking at tonight is a pilot project update. And there's more to come in this area. We can't build all the traffic safety infrastructure all at once. I do appreciate the frustration that people feel when they think it might be them or their children who are going to be the ones who are hit, and then a city acts. But to me, it feels that the city responds quite well and does a number of these each year. And I think only more traffic safety infrastructure is coming to this area as population increases. I'd like to also speak to number 18. That's the one on circular procurement policy, implementation and progress update. I see lots of great things in there for the way that we're trying to secure contracts that will be supplying kind of the circular economy type of material and services. And yeah, I think it's great that this is in place, and perhaps for future demolition of city infrastructure, we could see where buildings actually get taken apart and we exceed our kind of 80% waste diversion. We're not there yet, but I think with further progress in this direction, we can get there. I'd also like to speak on, I guess, my last item, number 19, the Dike Master Plan Phase 4 report. So this is the River Road on the north part of Richmond, from 6th Road all the way to Hamilton to Boundary Road, where Richmond meets New Westminster. And yeah, I expressed some frustration with this and my take on kind of the order of how things are going to go, because to do this Phase 4, there will be major environmental loss, devastation, removal of significant trees, loss of habitat, lots of shade, probably loss of the city's standing as the city with the second most bald eagle nests. So a lot of impact will occur, and my frustration was that we won't have the habitat compensation or the habitat enhancement identified. So staff did calm me down and share that it would be indeed first. It would come, the habitat, wherever that may be, because we don't have it secured yet, the location, but that would be in place before the loss of any of the existing environmental sensitive habitat and riparian features that those areas have right now. I also expressed, which it seems this is a little bit early in the stages, but that we should be looking at doing more retaining wall components of this dike. Looking through the report, you can kind of see different areas might have different kind of super dike infrastructure, but the areas that have like the lesser Lulu Island bog, which is like our second most intact natural feature in the city, I think that whole area fronting it should have the retaining wall so that the open water course there remains, because it has fish in it. It has predators that feed on the fish. You can see them hanging out of the mouth of the ducks or the kingfishers, or the river otters that are regularly in there. And so I really, I'm going to follow this through, that we put forth as much of that type of infrastructure, as opposed to the dike going up and over and putting all the water courses into cement pipes, which is going to be devastating to that side of this project as well. So those are the comments I'll make. Thank you.
Councillor Heed.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one comment, and this certainly isn't directed to any one staff member, and it's related to item number 7. I just want to point out, and I thank Mr. Corrado for his work on this, but I just want to point out
the inertia we have in the bureaucracy for something as simple as this, it took 7 months to get here. And if we are a council that wants to accomplish things in this particular term, this inertia has to change. And for something like this, 7 months, and again, this is not critical of any one staff member, but it's just the bureaucracy we have. And we've got to really realize this, is we've got to step up and fix things there. Thank you.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I'll speak to item 7, which is the bylaw enforcement officer. We're changing our bylaw officers to peace officers, and I wanted to thank Councillor Heed for bringing this to our attention. This is a necessary change that will help provide clarity, and New West, Surrey, and Langford already have peace officers, so I was pleased to see that we could make that change. Number 8 is the expanding the intermunicipal business license. You know, if you've ever had a business, I had a sign business for 46 years. It's a real pain to get a business license in every city that you work in, and having a unified license is the way to go, and it really supports small businesses. Number 9 is the seasonal patio extension of the Lucky Grill or Grill Party on Alexander Road. This is an area where there isn't as much residential, and police have reported no incidents at this restaurant. And while the hours will be extended to 2 a.m., that's not for the patio. That's just for the inside. The patio will close earlier. Item number 11 is, oh, that's off the agenda, sorry. Item 12 is off the agenda. 14 is off the agenda. Item 15, the Kitty-Wake traffic calming. You know, this is why we do pilot projects, because pilot projects provide us with information so we can make informed decisions. We had 2 speed bumps that were 9 centimeters high, and through the pilot project, we discovered that they needed to be to go from 9 centimeters to 7 centimeters, and they just needed to be put in a slightly different area. The current speed bumps have reduced the speed westbound 29 kilometers an hour and eastbound 18 kilometers an hour. That's a significant change with 2 speed bumps. So that's going to make that area much safer. And of course, we are going to continue talking to the residents in the area about potential traffic control for pedestrians. But that, again, takes time, consultation, and we have to make sure that we spend our traffic dollars wisely. So what's really exciting in number 16 in the annual water quality report is that we have some of the best water in Metro Vancouver. And while our population has gone up, our water consumption has gone down. And that's all because of water meters and education and outreach from the city to the public. So nobody's running their water, you know, unnecessarily. And the fact that in between 2020 and 2022, we reduced our consumption down 2.4% in just 2 years. And on page 315 is the water quality summary. And it's, if you only read one page, page 315, it's a really good one to read. It's going to make you feel real warm and fuzzy about living here in Richmond. Item number 17 is the drainage canal failure on Vickers Road. Can you imagine a business piling up tiles in the corner of our property, City of Richmond property, and causing so much damage that we have to repair that drainage canal? And it's going to cost about $1 million to fix it. So yes, we are going after the owners and the occupants to make sure we recoup that money from those irresponsible business owners. And the circular procurement policy sounds like, what is that? Well, we try to make sure that when we're spending money, we're spending it wisely. And we try to make sure that whoever we're buying from is using, you know, recycled materials and all that. You think, well, that's just going to cost us a whole bunch of money. Well, turns out we actually make money on it. On page 334, there's a little blurb in there about the Hugh Boyd Park, where we had to replace the synthetic turf. And so we diverted 800 kilograms or pounds of, 8,000 kilograms were diverted from the landfill. and were actually repurposed, and that saved the city $330,000. So that's what you call a circular economy that really works for everybody. And on page 338, the report mentions a King George synthetic turf. This is a King George Park. Well, it had lived its life as long as we could use it. So we also sent it to Fernwood Recycling in Victoria, and they're going to turn that turf into composite fence posts for agricultural and landscaping projects. So again, a very wise thing to do, because we're making smart choices of how we spend our money. We're making sure that it comes full cycle, and it's good for the taxpayer too, because we save money. Item number 19 is the Dike Master Plan. This is a really complicated report, and one of the things that we look at is how we're going to build the dikes, and there's like so many options. We're far from making a decision on exactly what type of dike will be built on the North River Road, basically east of Seven Road, because more research needs to be done. But this is an overall report for phase 4 of our diking system, and of course it's very, very important that we get it right. And the reason we have to do this is because if you have a weak part anywhere in the dike, you're vulnerable. So it has to be consistent all the way around. And number 20, thank you very much for the petition that this young gentleman came forward with to reinstate the 480 bus. You bet we should reinstate that 480 bus. It should not take a student 2 hours to get to University of British Columbia. That's just insanity. It was better if they had just left it alone. So rest assured that City Council and Mayor, even through Metro, are lobbying hard to get that 480 bus reinstated. So thank you, everybody, and I think that's it. Oh, sorry, that's off the consent. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Councillor Al.
Yeah, so I'm going to support everything on the consent agenda, but I just have brief comments on 3 items. The first one is item number 8, the intermunicipal TMS business license. I just want to ask staff a question, maybe 2 questions. So while we know that right now we are talking about 28 out of the 32 potential municipal governments are joining the program, but I want to know, do we know how many licenses have been issued in terms of service providers?
Through your worship, Councillor Al, there are 4 legal licensed companies. They're Lyft, Uber, Kawi Ride, and Whistler Ride that are currently in operation.
Okay. And I suppose that the revenue that we receive is very small, right? Because we have a small number of providers, and also the amount of the license fee is very small, 150 per license.
Through your worship to Councillor Al, the city received $183,000 in revenue in 2022, and there were over 1.7 million trips and pickups, drop-offs in Richmond as well.
So is there any talk that the license fee will be increased in the future?
Through your worship to Councillor Al, there is discussion about increase of fees within this structure. It requires consent from all different councils to do so.
Okay, good, thank you very much. And the second issue, the topic will be the circular procurement policy. And again, I want to thank staff for the very readable report, very informative report. And once again, it demonstrates that Richmond is a leader in this direction. And I really admire staff, for the way that we are going. It's learning by doing, right? There's not too many references that we can rely on, but staff really move ahead with lots of accomplishments. And especially, I think we have to set new standards, as staff mentioned, and also we have found new suppliers of service and goods. I think this is very, very good. So it's a job well done. And also, as Councillor Day mentioned, some people got the feeling that when we go in that direction, we may increase the cost of our services, but actually, we save money, and at the same time, we protect the environment. And also, it opens up the new opportunities economically. And I think that the essence of the best part of the report is not the report itself, but the attachment, the successful stories that staff share. I think those are very exciting stories from page 329 to 338. So I want to congratulate staff for the success. And finally, on the 480 bus route, I support the change, the small change we made, because I think this issue is time sensitive. I think we need to make sure that, well, hopefully, you can have the change being made before September, or soon after September, when the school year begins. So I think we should ask TransLink to meet with us ASAP. Hopefully, we can talk to them in July, and they can make the change before September. So with that, I support everything on the consent agenda.
Okay, just to make a couple of remarks for myself. First of all, on the circular economy, this is something that when I was chair of the National Zero Waste Council through Metro Vancouver, I was extensively involved in. And we are early proponents of that. And in fact, the national organization that the city is part of is through the National Zero Waste Council. The important thing to note is that whilst recycling is an important part of the circular economy, it's a much wider situation. It's a much wider definition than just recycling. It's a whole way of thinking, so that instead of having the linear economy where you manufacture items that are consumed, and the assumption throughout is that when you get to the end of the lifespan of that item, it's going to be thrown into the garbage. The assumption throughout is that it will be manufactured, used, and, well, designed and used in such a way that when it comes to the end of its effective life, it will then be repurposed, reused in some way. So as I say, it's recycling has an important component to that, but it's far wider than that. The other thing to note, just referring to this, the TransLink situation and the 480, I should explain to council and to the public. Governance has been a very hot topic with the Mayor's Council and with TransLink ever since they made the governance change in around 2008. And they made the change so that the chair and the vice chair of the Mayor's Council would sit on the TransLink board. And they made that change a few years ago. And the ministry responsible for TransLink has indicated that they will have a third position of a mayor going to the board, and they're going to do that in an upcoming legislative session. In the meantime, accommodation has been made for a member of the Mayor's Council to sit on the TransLink board as that third position, and there's various details to it, but basically to sit there, sit with the board. I am that representative. And I mention all this, first of all, because council should certainly be aware of this. But the decision on the 480 will be that of the TransLink board ultimately. The Mayor's Council has very limited jurisdiction, and it's a source of huge frustration. But the TransLink board can make those kinds of decisions like, we want this eliminated, we want this reinstated. So for instance, when COVID came about, the board had to approve the cuts and the changes in the service, and then as we've come out of it, they have to approve whatever the changes are as well. So that will be something that I will take, besides writing the letter, which is good, and having our staff involved, which is good, and having someone from TransLink come here, which is good, and speak to a council or a committee. I'll speak to the board. And we've had, at the board level, we have had delegations on that item, as we have at the Metro Vancouver board, although Metro Vancouver really doesn't have much to do with it. So that's just for your information. With that, on the consent agenda, with the various items removed, I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So that brings us to the three items that have been taken off the consent. Before we get to the other one, which has always been off the consent. So we'll go to number 11. The chair of the planning committee will turn it over to Councillor McNulty.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is an application by Bento Co. and Vernie Co. for a rezoning on 7520 Ash Street from a single detached RS1F zone to a single detached RS2. And it is a simple subdivision, actually, of to create two single-family homes, one on which will vehicle access to Ash Street and the other to Armstrong Street. And the resolution that we have is the Richmond zoning bylaw and the amendment 10472 for the rezoning of 7520 Ash from RS1F to zoning single-family RS2E be introduced and given first reading, and I would so move.
Moved and seconded.
It's a simple subdivision, Your Worship, and it's straightforward and it meets all the statutes of the city.
Councillor Wolf.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to speak in opposition to this, I did attend a planning committee meeting, heard the discussion. 2 points, I guess, to bring up. One is the item we're going to discuss right after this is just down the road, and we're talking about putting townhouses in, so like a little bit more density than just a large single-family house. And also, if this development were to go ahead and that one single-family house were to be put in a location where you could actually not need to give cash in lieu for trees that may show up somewhere down the road, but actually be retained on site. So they had 18 trees assessed. They only have room for 8. So 10 they haven't made room for. They haven't been able to accommodate it. I do see that there was really no variances requested, and perhaps the repositioning or shaping of the house, or ideally a project in the future with the neighboring property could provide a higher density, provide more units, more affordable units, not one large home taking away part of the urban tree canopy. Thank you.
A question of Councillor Wolf. If this were higher density, say it were townhomes, isn't it likely that more trees would be sacrificed?
Thank you. I think that would probably be the case, because look at the next item we're going to talk about. It's a whole bunch of townhouses and it's taking out a lot of trees as well. So you're right, but maybe approaching it in a different way where you increase density over part of the property, not the entire parcel.
All right. Councillor Galanders, just a minute. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. The thing I like about this development is that there's an existing single-family residence that is being retained and it's currently being rented, so the renters are going to get to stay there. Sometimes when these things, these rezonings happen, people that have been in long-term rentals have to go. So I like that they're keeping an existing residence. And I know that there's actually, at the end of the 7200 block, I think there's a property that sort of has like an urban forest in their backyard that's, quite an ecological place. And so I like the idea that if this area would stay single family, even though it's two lots and not one, and then the townhouses being on the next block, I would prefer that to the idea that townhouses would go right up to this house. So I actually, and also the 9 trees that are being removed they say that they're all in poor condition. So I'm actually okay with this one myself.
All right, thank you. We'll call the question then. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. Number 12, Councillor McNulty.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next one is an application by the Cian Group Investments for rezoning at 7100 and 7120 Ash Street from single detached RS1F zone to the townhouse zone in the South McLennan St. Albans sub-area zone. And there's a bit of a complication on this. I'll read it and put it on the floor, Your Worship, and then talk to it. The third reading of the Richmond zoning bylaw 8500 amendment 10163 for the rezoning at 7100 and 7120 Ash Street be rescinded, and that the associated rezoning consideration be revised to reflect changes to tree retention and replacement as per attachment D of the report. And the second one, Your Worship, is that the Richmond zoning bylaw 8500, 10163 for the rezoning of same address from single detached RS1F to townhouse ZT 16 be granted third reading, and I would so move.
Moved and seconded.
Okay, your worship, this one is one of the ones that Councillor Heed was talking about bureaucracy. We're only given a third reading, and it's been around for a while, and it's an opportunity to have 17 homes for people in the community, 17 townhouses. The application has been in the hopper for quite some time, and the applicant is putting up bonds for tree replacement to the tune of $27,000. But more importantly, as well, has followed all the rules of the city, and it's taken this long to get here, that a contribution of almost $200,000 to the affordable housing strategy. We're looking at amenity space, another $30,000. We wonder why properties go up and the cost of housing is the way it is. So the longer we delay it, the more it costs, and to keep this going. And this particular one also, your worship, follows all the statutes of the city, and I'm not sure why it has been held in the hopper for so long, but I'm very pleased to see it here and on the table, and hopefully we can have 17 homes for folks down the road.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
I just had a question of staff on this one. Originally, this proposal came through in 2020 and then kind of sat there for a long time. Was that the city's decision, or was that the developer's decision?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, it was actually that there was a change in ownership between the person who brought the application to third reading, and then it was subsequently purchased by a different owner.
Okay, and then my second question is, on page 130 and 131, we have letters from the developer and also from Woodridge Tree saying that the trees that were originally going to be saved now are in declining health and must be removed. I just want to make sure that it says in the letter that it's natural causes, that nothing, was done to these trees. Can you confirm that?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, that's correct, based on the assessment from the arborists and our own city staff. It was as a result of natural conditions.
Okay, and then my last question is 17 townhouses, but none of them are going to have secondary suites. Do you think there's any way that we could revisit that issue, maybe in DP or?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, I don't believe at this point in time that would be appropriate. The DP did receive DP panel endorsement back in September. The applicant is working on addressing all of their other rezoning considerations in order to bring this project to market.
Okay, so it's good, it's just not great, so I will be supporting it.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question to staff. First off, I did attend planning, and I appreciate the discussion that was had there and the memo that we received in regards to trees. I've looked through this, the original one from 2020 and the one today, and I'm not clear how many trees are going to fit on the property. I know the latest number is that 44 trees will be replaced, but nowhere on here does it say the number they're going to fit.
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, through the development permit, and I need to go back and review that, and I can come back to you with that response, but I believe through the development permit application, we were securing, in addition to these 4 additional trees to be planted, close to the 44 trees.
Close to the 44 trees. That would be, I think, exceptional, and I would have to support it if they were able to pull that off, because it is quite dense with the view of where all the townhouses are going to fit, and there's not really a lot of outdoor amenity space there, albeit they were able to retain a few trees, one that's almost a meter wide or diameter Douglas fir, which is nice along the property line. But you can also, as was previously mentioned there on dead trees, I can show you in Hamilton, Bridgeport neighborhood, where the Walmart went in, the trees that are meant to be retained and put fences around them, and they're still abused through all the root cutting and all the water pooling that happens. So every season, these trees that are intended to be retained, you can see what happens to them, and this is another case of it. So, yeah, and unfortunately, the change in ownership delayed it. And the part of that delay probably led to further abuse to the area where the trees were intended to be retained. So I'm not going to support it.
Councillor Glanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I have another question about the trees. So it was the trees, the 364, 365, 366, and 367 were the 4 Douglas fir trees that were originally set to be able to be retained, which are now declining. So if they're gonna be removed, is that area still gonna be not filled in and be the original soil and try for Douglas firs there again?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, the intention would be to plant the replacement trees in this area to ensure that it provides that coverage for that portion of the site.
But with the organics, with the natural soil at its current elevation?
I can't confirm that at this point in time. My understanding would be that that would generally be what would occur on the site.
Great.
But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. Then we go to number 14, the response to Metro Vancouver. Councillor McNulty.
Yes, thank you, Worship. This one is asking us to comment on the Township of Langley. It's a response, Metro Vancouver's referral, the land use designation amendment to the Metro Vancouver 2050 Regional Growth Strategy is proposed by the Township of Langley. And I'll read the recommendation. The staff be directed to communicate to Metro Vancouver Regional District Board and the City of Richmond's opposition and comments as outlined in the staff report titled Response to Metro Vancouver's Referral Land Use Designation Amendment to Metro Vancouver 2050 Regional Growth Strategy proposed by the Township of Langley, dated May 30th, 23, from the Director of Policy Planning, and I would so move.
Is it seconded to put it on the floor? Go ahead. Did you wish to?
Yeah, Your Worship, this is an interesting one. It's, as you know, we've asked members to support us, but it involves 14.59 hectares or 36 acres of land in the Township of Langley, located in 56th Avenue and 264th Street to the west and 68th Street to the east. It's adjacent to an industrial park, and it's the land is designated agriculture. They want to move from agriculture to industrial, to move the urban containment boundary and to include these lands on it. And they are contiguous with the boundary. They're not within the ALR, and the criteria is on it. And I think it's an issue that they will continue to deal with and get input from other communities. And we have staff's recommendation on the floor.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to recommend that we defeat this motion and that we put the opposite motion, that we approve the concept as proposed by the Township of Langley. Now, at the outset, it's talking about agricultural land, and this council, we can go to hundreds of times, we are on record as supporting agriculture and agricultural land. But in fact, this property, as Councilor McNulty says, it's contiguous to industrial property. We know that there's a shortage of industrial property throughout the region. And it was taken in March of 2022. It was taken out of the agricultural land reserve. So I spoke with the mayor of Langley about this situation, and I have circulated this to the councillors, but I think it bears repeating. He says, to clarify, there's no need at this location for any expansion of regional service infrastructure. This location on 56th Avenue already has water and sewer. Now, the report that staff has presented to us now is a very high quality report. I happen to disagree with the conclusions, but I'm not being critical of it. It does say that there's no services there, but according to the mayor, there is sewer and water. It's located on the major road network and adjacent to the 264th interchange of Highway 1. As the Township of Langley sees it, this is positive leveraging of existing infrastructure, not urban sprawl. Then he goes on to say that the parcel is already removed from the agricultural land reserve. The choice from here, which would be made by that city, will be 1/2 acre lots for residential purposes, which does not require regional approval or industrial uses. To me, an increase in industrial land supply has regional benefit and the alternative does not. Then he says, overall, with this application and one other, we are looking to finish the Gloucester Industrial Park with an additional 70 acres or so. We are hopeful that this will help with ridership numbers to get transit service to the area. One way to ensure that we further delay indefinitely getting transit to this location would be to not allow it to grow when it is otherwise logical to do so. That issue of transit, south of the Fraser and the farther out you go, the situation becomes more and more pervasive that, we can talk about having rapid transit going to Langley, but it's in fact only in the corner of the Township of Langley. It's mostly to Langley City. And so you need density in order to get more transit, and the way to do it, I think you've got a better shot at doing it with an industrial intensification strategy than you are with a bunch of half-acre residential lots. And also the point that Councillor McNulty referred to is we are being asked to make a regional decision. What is in the best interest of the entire region? And being on the other end of that, members will remember some of the Canada Line debates, certainly the Riverport debates, the debates over having the sewer hookup on the Peter Dillon property in East Richmond in the agricultural area. All of those were situations where we were deeply resentful of other people coming in and telling us what to do in our city when, we had examined it very, very fully. So, and that's the way the people of Langley feel if we start imposing what we think on them. We are all in favor of agricultural land, but this has come out of the agricultural land reserve, so it can go any which way, and it's best for the region, in my opinion, if it doesn't go residential and if it goes industrial. So I would recommend that we defeat this motion, and then we'll put a motion on the floor to approve the Metro Vancouver recommendation. Councillor Wolf.
Thank you. My priority, I guess, is providing food for the region, for the area, for the province. I think we do have that united front, or that need to speak up when others are going to compromise the ability for that. I know this is not the largest property. This doesn't provide food that was on your plate today, but it could, and it might be in more critical need in the future to do so. At committee, we unanimously supported this, the staff's recommendation, which I'll support again. And then to just hear some words or clarification from the mayor of the township in question doesn't change my mind. I never sat down with him and heard maybe there's more details that I'm unaware of, but to make this switch all of a sudden doesn't sit well with me. I think what staff had recommended was and provided us was adequate. Maybe there is some of the utility services there, but they're probably not at the grade they're going to need to be for what the future use is. And the last two speakers highlighted that it's not in the ALR. Well, last year, 2022, is only like 7 months ago, so like it's doesn't have a long-term standing. And to support this kind of project, you're going to get other municipalities or the same ones saying, "Hey, we did it there. Let's just do it again. Let's get another one at the ALR and then bring it right back the same way." Because now we got Richmond to go on our side of destroying the urban containment boundary line. So I'm in support of what's before us.
Counselor Hobbs.
Thanks, and through the chair, well, I did support it at committee as well. I do have a question of staff, if that's okay. The removal from the ALR and the concept of building half-acre lots with residences, I don't find that appealing. I did wonder at committee as well, when I look at the map, it seems to be kind of in line with the area that is industrial already, and we do know there is a shortage of industrial space. But the rationale for intensifying industrial land use as it exists now, both in Richmond and elsewhere, I think is a very valid concept. But is this proposal that Langley has and the intensification of existing or perhaps future industrial space, are those two things mutually exclusive? Like, is this concept that Langley is putting forward mutually exclusive to the idea of intensifying industrial land? Those two things, can they be done at once?
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs, I would say first off that the Township of Langley, to the best of my knowledge, does not have an industrial land intensification initiative like the City of Richmond has taken on. Therefore, the policies that we have certainly do support intensive industrial development. Township of Langley, I'm not aware of those type of policies. In this particular application, I think the concern is it is a bit of a chip away into the agricultural areas that completely surround this industrial park, rather than taking efforts to actually intensify the existing industrial park.
All right, so, all right, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Counselor Day.
Thank you very much. Well, I think the conclusion on page 224 says it all. Richmond's primary concern relates to the expansion of industrial land beyond the urban containment boundary, which undermines efforts supporting policy to intensify the development and usage of industrial land in Richmond and throughout the region. We're doing our part. And it seems to me that they should do their part and intensify the existing industrial land that they already have. You know, if Councillor Harold Steves was here, he'd probably say, put green roofs on or do something better, intensify and still maintain some of those 36 acres. But the thing that annoys me is that the ALC allowed these 36 acres to come out of the ALR. And if we don't say something, Metro Board, which must vote 50% plus one, might just go along with it. I think it's our responsibility to protect ALR land. I just want to remind you of the Mylora Golf Course. There was 30 acres of number 5 road on the highway to heaven. And we actually had a developer come in and say, tell you what I'll do. I'll give the city of Richmond 20 acres so you can farm it, X golf course, and if I could just put 5 2-acre lots along number 5 road. And the ALC turned us down. When have you ever heard of a golf course going back into farming? I don't think it's ever happened. And so I'm a little annoyed with the ALC, and I think that we should say no and, you know, potentially teach the people that are working in Langley how to intensify their existing industrial land so that they can make better use of it, better utilize it. So I will not be supporting voting this down.
For the record, the Mylora proposal was turned down because it provided for subdivision of agricultural land. It wasn't the city being the recipient of agricultural land. It was the subdivision to which they object and to which they continue to object. Councillor Al.
Yes, Your Worship, I have to say that the letter from the mayor of Township Langley has helped to change my mind. But especially, you know, when you're facing with two options, one is to use this land for industrial use or for residential use. I think, you know, for the benefit of the whole region, because we know that we have shortage of industrial land. So I think that is a better option if we are only being given these two options. But I have a question to staff. Now, we know that, or we're being told that this land was being taken, has already been taken away from, taken out of the ALC. And I think staff also mentioned that that was done in March 2022. Do you know any background about this change? So what was the circumstances leading to this land being taken out of the AR?
Through your worship to Councillor Au, I do not have all the background details on why it was taken out or what the rationale was. The decision was made in March of 2022. The City of Richmond was not notified or asked to consult on that application. So I'm not able to provide any further information except that the land was removed from the ALR in 2022.
Councillor Galanders.
Thank you. Sorry, I have a question along that same lines. I read something earlier today that the exclusion application was contingent upon something. It wasn't just like it's out, it was, they granted it that it was out contingent upon something. Did you know what that was?
Through your worship to Councillor Galanders, I'm not aware of that information. I'm happy to look it up though if that makes a difference.
Thank you.
But there's no indication of that in your report, nor in the Metro Vancouver report.
Correct.
Nor is there any situation that we've had contingent approval.
I would agree, your worship.
I believe I read it in the attachment that the Langley mayor sent over earlier today.
It's not in there.
Okay. And yeah, so my issue is I know that these, some of these properties I saw them being marketed for sale. The one above the property in question was being listed for sale as potential future industrial. I believe the one that's being taken out, the one that is being talked about here is owned by the Pattison Group. Frequently people buy properties along when there's triangles like this, hoping that one day they come out. But it is, I believe it's also been in Langley's OCP for a long time that entire triangle will be industrial. So I think they're just, that's been part of their plan all along. So I do see the point that if we had done this planning here in Richmond of what we needed and had made a decision, then we wouldn't want other people telling us what to do. But at the same time, just protecting our ALR lands from being speculated like that. This has been in the works for a long time that, oh, don't worry, it'll eventually come out, just buy it. And so that's what we need to stop happening.
All right, with that, we'll call the, Councillor Heed, sorry, didn't see it.
A question to you, Mayor, based on your knowledge. We have no veto power here, correct?
This council has no veto power. The 3 representatives going to Metro Vancouver will eventually vote on it.
So that's the democratic process
Right.
that's utilized.
And whatever this council says is persuasive or influential on how your representatives vote in Metro Vancouver, but those representatives, which are me, Councillor McNulty, Councillor Au, we will exercise our independent decisions on that question when we get to Metro Vancouver. But it's obviously important to know what this council thinks.
And the weight throughout the metro region is similar. The weighted vote. There is no weighted vote. It's just vote.
Oh, there would be a weighted vote if anyone asked for it. Yeah. So, with that, so the motion is to oppose the suggestion that's presented. All those in favor? It is the planning committee recommendation, which is to confirm opposition and make comments as in the staff report. Yep. All those in favor? Okay. Those opposed? So it is defeated with Councillor Al McNulty, Hobbs, Heed, and Liu opposed. So I would
Positive recommendation.
it would be to, we communicate Richmond, City of Richmond's approval as proposed by the City of Langley to the Metro Vancouver.
So moved.
Okay? Moved and seconded. Further discussion on that? Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried with Councillors Galanders, Day, and Wolf opposed. Okay, so that moves us past that to the General Purposes Committee. And I just want to explain that there has been, this is the alcohol in the parks. Just before I make the motion, I just want to explain that staff gave us a memo dated June 23rd, 2023, which had revised areas in Minaroo Park, Gary Point Park, King George Park to be considered. So the General Purposes Committee makes no recommendation, but I'm proposing that we go with a staff recommendation, which that a bylaw be drafted to permit the implementation of a pilot project for the consumption of liquor in designated areas in a limited number of City of Richmond parks, as detailed in the report Pilot Project for the Consumption of Alcohol in Public Parks, dated May 25th, from the Director of Parks Services and Community Bylaws, which with the location within the parks modified by the memo from the Manager of Parks Programs dated June 23rd, 2023, and I would so move. Can we get a seconder? Okay, so it's moved and it's seconded. I should go to Councillor Heed. If you want, do you want to lead off with a comment?
Make a couple of remarks with respect to this. This is something that unfortunately has been very controversial going forward, which surprised me given the fact that we have the majority of the municipalities in Metro Vancouver that have actually adopted this as part of their regular standard operating procedures within their municipality. And all I was requesting here was a pilot, and my understanding the pilot would only be maximum 2 months, possibly only a month and a half. We've designated certain parks. Staff has done a great job at designating so many parks, and I'm going to take back my comment on bureaucracy here because they did it in a rather expeditious fashion, and we certainly appreciate that. And given the fact that we're entering this beautiful weather this summer areas, we want people to go out and enjoy our parks and consume a beverage responsibly. I think the fact that we have our enforcement agencies here, I see the fire chief is here. The police chief is online with respect to that. We've had conversations. We've heard from them with respect to that. We have Mr. Corrado from the bylaw officers. We've heard their comments. So I'm certainly supportive of doing this pilot over the next couple of months and then measuring the results. And, if need be, then we can go out and get some feedback and consult the public with respect to this. Thank you.
All right. I have a number of speakers. I'm going to go in this order. Councillors McNulty, Hobbs, Wolf, Councillor Liu has her hand up remotely, and then Councillor Au. So Councillor McNulty.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to rehash what we've talked to up to now, and I just want to make a couple of comments. I still haven't had any documentation from anybody requesting this, and it's interesting being out in the community. I'm out in the community a little bit, and I haven't had one person say, I'd like to see you have drinking in the park. I find it absolutely incredible. Maybe somebody else is getting all the correspondence and stuff, and I'm not. But that's okay on it. But I'm not going to support this from, we're assuming responsibility, we're assuming everything, and we're getting letters now saying not to do it. We're getting from people in the parks, we're getting people in even our own professional staff who have to manage the parks, what have you, and I think we're opening a Pandora's box here by on it, and the perception of image, in my opinion, and people always refer to other communities and what they do, and I think sometimes you have to stand alone if you thoroughly believe in it. Everything from you say, well, the soccer guys at the end of the game, they have a few beers, etc., and then they jump in their cars, etc. Well, I guess if they have a few beers, they're legally drunk and they're breaking the law by drinking and driving. And yes, you can point fingers at me and say, okay, get real. I am real. I don't know how many times we talked about people drinking and driving and what MAD does and other organizations when either a teenager or somebody else gets killed, and alcohol is to blame. So I just don't feel this is the right fit for our community, and I'll stand by it. And we've got organizations working hard on know the negative effects on it, and I'm not saying it's going to happen to everybody, but the most important thing is we're changing the image of our parks. Our people are going to parks because they're safe, they're family oriented, and Richmond was built on neighborhoods. And this is something that I came here in 1971 because it was a bedroom community of Vancouver. It was clean, it had sports, it had this, it had that, and other communities didn't. So I'm very passionate about it, and even through my own professional work for 40 years, I am not going to support it. I think a member of council last meeting spoke very eloquent, actually, about why we shouldn't do it. And I'm not even going to try to repeat that because I couldn't, but I did listen, and I hope the public hear it. So if you want me to change my vote down the road, then please lobby me, because I haven't had one person lobby me yet. Thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, and through the chair, first, thank staff for the initial report and the update. That was useful. I agree. I haven't heard any great demand from the public on this issue either. There has been some interest, and there has been some expression of opposition as well by people. And I think the concerns, as well as the people who support it, are all legitimate. It just depends on your point of view. So this is a pilot. It is for a short term, and I'll see what happens tonight. If there is a pilot, something I am interested in is the metrics that we're going to use to measure it. That's going to be very important because it's a very short time window. So it can't just be calls for service for police or bylaws or fire, because that's probably going to be minimal. Emails, complaints, calls that we receive, is that going to be logged? And I do have a question for staff in terms of how they're planning on capturing that information in a short time window on something that is happening on a short time frame. And also, how do we capture anecdotal information? Because I think with something this short term, if it goes ahead, anecdotal information is actually going to be almost as valuable as statistical information. So, and before you answer the question, I'll just say, and if it goes ahead and we get too much negative commentary or anecdotal information or even statistical analysis, I would not support it in the long term. But I would like to hear you outline how you plan on assessing the impact of this on neighborhoods, as we've just heard, which are very important to us.
Through the mayor to Councillor Hobbs, utilizing existing opportunities and methods of garnering input from the community, including, as outlined in the report, Let's Talk Richmond, the parks general email, as well as phone numbers, which would all be posted on signage that would be at a proposed pilot project location. We would ask residents in that signage to please, we would like to hear from you, the words to that effect on the sign, to encourage residents to provide feedback. The Let's Talk Richmond survey would be open throughout the pilot, throughout the duration of the pilot. Additionally, at most of our parks, we have caretakers, and caretakers regularly are on site, and so they would be observing, kind of eyes and ears on the ground, as well as city staff who maintain the parks. So staff often interact with residents and members of the public. So those are several options in terms of formally asking for feedback, as well as getting informal anecdotal information. All of that would be collated by staff and integrated as in an assessment after the pilot project.
Okay. I wasn't sure you could say anything, but
Through your worship to Councillor Hobbs. In addition to that, there'll be a variety of law enforcement databases that'll be engaged. There'll be the police records management information, records information management environment prime that will catalog that information, and a quantitative and a qualitative factor. So there is both descriptive narrative in those files as well, along with the bylaw records management system, which will capture quantitative and qualitative descriptions. In addition to that, things like photos. And then lastly, we would catalog all of our complaints and administrative type calls that we receive from the public that are not specific to a geography, but also kind of as a good bellwether of discontent, so to speak, with a particular bylaw.
I would also like to further add that staff regularly receives requests for services and from residents, and those are recorded as service requests and tracked. So if they are specifically tied to a pilot project location in a specific park, we can track our service requests through that system.
Sure, that sounds good. And I'm glad to hear all of that, because there's two ways to do things, right? There's, passive sonar, active sonar kind of thing. So it's good to be out searching for things, not just listening and receiving. And your worship, just one other thing, I do have an amendment to suggest at the right time. So thank you.
All right, we'll come back to you then. Councillor Wolf.
Thanks. Your worship, I don't have any questions for staff. And my comments will be fairly similar to what I spoke of at General Purposes Committee. And I do see the change in the number of parks and the size of the area within the park. Well aware of that. The presentation from our medical health officer, Dr. Mina Dwar, was very powerful. She provided a lot of data, statistics, graphs. People can interpret it and accept it for what they deem to be the facts. But it definitely showed where Richmond is leading in a very positive way. And this jeopardizes that. She had some great, I recommend everyone go back and watch her presentation and hear her comments. And basically that one of the highlights that I took away from it was that these bylaws will contribute to a culture of alcohol that normalization, right? And the culture has changed. I know when I grew up, I saw my parents and other people drinking. I don't want the same for my daughter, and I definitely don't want it in the parks that we are going to frequent. One of the parks that's mentioned here to remain in the pilot is King George Park. And yeah, I know it's not the whole park, and it doesn't include the splash park. But the last time we went to the splash park, a kid came up to us, blood down the whole body, because they had gone to the climbing structure, the little amphitheater, the little rock wall, and climbed around with it and sliced up all sorts. So I went to go inspect, and all the glass shattered bottles there. And to think that that's going to be in, we can't control what people are going to consume their beverages in. Ideally, it'd be in a metal container like that or something. But they're going to bring glass, wine, beer, cider, and we're going to do that right there where kids go. There's no fence, there's no block to stop the kids who have bare feet coming from the splash park and are going to run into the great amenity features of 1 meter away. It's incredible. And there's an asphalt trail right along there as well. So that park's a no-go. Another one included here is Garry Point Park. And yes, it's a whole lot smaller of the area than the whole park, like that was proposed to us last time. I walked the whole outer trail and stopped along the way. About 30 empty cans from the other day. A fire that wasn't smoldering, but it sure looked like it was used recently. Lots of cans and bottles all amongst the rocks of the dike on the outer edge. And that's without this normalization of people bringing what they can in their backpacks or pockets. Now we're going to have people showing up with coolers and trunkfuls. So yeah, definitely not in support of that one. And then the other one, which we heard a number of people around the table speak to, Minru Park shouldn't be included. It's all that hidden area under trees and benches, asphalt surfaces. And that's going to be that's still included. So I'm interested to hear what Councillor Hobbs' amendment is later. Maybe it would be to remove that, because there sure was a lot of comments in opposition in regards to that. And I think I heard Councillor McNulty just use the comment water. I didn't mention that. Yeah, Dr. Dewar highlighted the significance around drinking and accidents and death when you got open water. And sure, there's the Minaroo Pond, but then there's the Fraser River, and that's a whole other body of water that you don't want to fall in when you're not fully there. Then this hasn't had, I actually would like this to have more time. I would like this to be, come to us once we've heard from each of the impacted community associations. We only heard from one, the Hamilton community, who said, don't include us in this pilot. We don't have we're 15 kilometers away from the closest RCMP station. We have a park it's family oriented. We don't want to mess with that. And what about the Steveston Community Association? What about the East Richmond Community Association? I haven't heard from them, so I definitely don't want to put this impact on their community. And finally, I'll just highlight one of the other letters we got from a caretaker of King George Park. And to think that these people are, well, they're not meant to be the first responders on the front lines, but they are. And to have a letter from them saying how much they see there's already a problem, and we're again going to try and solve it. I think if we wanted to solve this problem, then let's go with the beer gardens that can be at a certain time, a certain day, not open any time that the park's open, but here's your area where you can be, and there can be some supervision, there can be some park security on site, and everyone is visible to them. Not this go around the corner, do things that you're not supposed to do, and other things you're not supposed to do. And then, yeah, I don't know, there's a lot more I could say in opposition. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Just before we go to the next speaker, which is Councillor Liu, I just do want to make clear, the motion, there are revised areas within 3 of the parks that we're talking about. That's where the memo comes in. But the motion that is on the floor is for the original 5, Gary Point Park, Aberdeen, Minaroo Park, King George, Cambie, and McLean Neighborhood Park. Those are the 5, and they remain in the mix as proposed in the motion. So we'll go to Councillor Liu. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Worship. I have a question for staff. I know we've definitely heard from people in the McLean neighborhood of things they do want in their park, like lights, seating, covered area. I know that there's drainage issues in that McLean Park, and I know that there were holes in the middle of the field. Have any of those holes or drainage issues been dealt with? Because I think if someone's going to be drinking in the park and there's a hole right in the middle of the soccer field there, someone's going to break an ankle or something's going to happen.
Through the chair to Councillor Liu, yes, the general maintenance of the site has been improved, and we are continuing to work on that. Longer term, more broader goals are still under discussion.
Okay, is there a washroom at McLean Park?
Pardon me, can you say that again, please?
Is there a washroom?
Within the boundaries, it's close by.
How far?
Through the mayor to Councillor Liu, the location of the public washroom in near McLean Park is at Hamilton Community Center. I don't know the exact distance at this moment, but they are adjacent.
Okay, Councillor.
Okay, I thought it was across the street. And then where's the closest washroom at Minaroo in the area that's been presented? Because we got an email the other day from someone who's having a hard time finding a public washroom.
Through your worship, so Councillor Liu, the washroom is immediately adjacent the Lawn Bowling Green parking lot.
Okay, and it's open 11 to 9?
I'm not sure the hours. I can have to confirm that for you.
Okay.
Councillor Howe.
Well, I opposed to this last week at GP meeting, and I'm still going to oppose it today. for four main reasons. First, I think it affects everybody who are going to use the park. And secondly, I think there's a cost for any kind of and law enforcement, which is not necessary, And it has been pointed out that the risk of drinking and driving is increased. And the other problem that I have is that we do not have proper consultation before we launch this pilot project, so to speak. Staff suggests that we do the consultation afterwards and not before. I think there's a problem. Now, even though we did not have a proper consultation, the public did go forward to tell us what they think. And at least, I think we have 5 different opinions in our hands. As being mentioned, Dr. Dawo from Vancouver Coastal Health spoke to us last week, and she warned that further normalization of drinking is dangerous. And she also pointed out that alcohol is the largest public health issue in the province and the most costly in the province. And it's been mentioned that we received a letter from a staff, from a park caretaker at King George Park. And she said, I'm very passionate that alcohol should not be used legally and freely within our parks. And she went on to say, to share the example that was being quoted by Councillor Manati, that people have a can of beer bottles and then they were being smashed nearby the children's playground and the spray park. And she went on to say, not everyone wants to be exposed to people drinking alcohol in the park, such as families with young children, people who are triggered by alcohol use and are trying to stay sober. I think that's a very convincing argument. And her final word is, please do not pass legal alcohol use in our public parks. And another unsolicited feedback is from the Hamilton Community Association. And then they quote public safety, the potential for increased littering and noise, the impact on the overall family-friendly atmosphere of the parks, and the encouragement of alcohol consumption are the issues that they are concerned. And they also mentioned that our concern also evolved around the issue of consultation, which is the lack of consultation. So we also received letters from the public, which is against the idea of allowing drinking in parks. We also see a letter, at least one letter, in the Richmond News opposing it. On the contrary, we did not receive or see any letters from the public supporting it. So I understand that the argument is this is only a pilot project, but we know it's quite likely that once we have this as a pilot project, it will become permanent. We have seen that far too often. So I think instead of going further into this slippery slope, I would say that let's stop here. Let's wait and see, what other communities or cities have experienced before, we just rush to this same pilot project. So with that, I would oppose.
Councillor Day.
I think everyone's getting a little worked up here. It's a pilot project from July to September. It's 2 months. It's not like we're just changing everything. Now, maybe part of the problem for some of the councillors is that the pilot test was too large. We've got McLean Park in Hamilton, we've got King George Park in East Richmond, Aberdeen, downtown Richmond, Minaroo Park in the core of Richmond, and Garry Point Park. Well, staff have come back with a memo, which by now no one has seen because, except for council, it's not on the website, it's not in the minutes, and not in the package that went out on the web. So it really minimalizes where everything could be. But I think what I'd like to do is consider eliminating McLean and eliminating Minaroo. I think King George, Aberdeen, and Garry Point are perfectly situated, and this is why. King George Park is surrounded by all kinds of people who live in the area, lots of eyes and ears, and the area that would allow drinking is a very small, concentrated area with excellent access for police and other bylaw officers or peace officers. Aberdeen Park is in the middle of high-rises all the way around. I mean, you've got thousands of eyes looking down on that park. And the great thing about having this available in Aberdeen Park is like people are living in those micro suites. If they want to do a birthday party, a retirement party, a baby shower, they're not going to be able to do that in the 400 square feet that they live in. And being able to host family events and celebrations in Aberdeen, I think would be great. Keep in mind, it's only till 9 o'clock. Everything's off after that. There's no drinking allowed after 9 o'clock. And on top of that, even with these bylaws in place, you're not allowed to be intoxicated in a public place, whether you're taking drugs or alcohol or anything else. So there will be no overconsumption because it simply will not be tolerated. It isn't now, and it won't be then. The other thing that I want to note is that orange juice and pop and Coca-Cola come in glass bottles too. So saying no alcohol doesn't mean there aren't going to be any broken bottles. There are going to be broken bottles no matter what we decide tonight. So that's not an argument for me. We've done pilot projects in the past. For instance, the Kittiwake project, right? Did a pilot, we decided to make some changes, and it's been a big success. Patios, remember during COVID when we allowed the restaurants to have patios out in front of their restaurants so they could serve more people and stay in business? That's been so successful that many of those restaurants have continued with that, and the city has now changed its bylaws allowing those patios. Pilots work. Pilots give us the intel that we need to make intelligent, informed decisions. People are always afraid of what they don't understand. Now, the port, so just so you know, in Vancouver, there are 54 places in the public you can have a beer. In Coquitlam, there are 57 places you can go out in the public and have a beer. So Port Coquitlam writes, this is from Port Coquitlam website, adults can continue to drink responsibly in 10 Port Coquitlam-based pilot projects. We have seen 7 successful responsible drinking places, and they mention them. And following strong approval from the public survey, the city's recommended to permanently allow in 10 parks. That's Port Coquitlam. Vancouver, same thing. They write, after 2 successful years, we are delighted to bring back responsible alcohol consumption to many of Vancouver's most popular public places, says Parks Board Chair Scott Jensen. Our previous pilot programs demonstrated the importance of creating shared spaces for socializing. And we saw how effectively Vancouver's parks and beaches can accommodate safe drinking. The rules are still in place. You're not allowed to be drunk out in public. Now let's think about Richmond, probably one of the most conservative cities in Metro Vancouver, and that's exactly what Dr. Darwa came and told us. The brown line way up here is the province of BC drinking level, which is 10 drinks a week. We're down here in the green level, where the average is 5 drinks a week. And that's based on alcohol sales. You know, a lot of people work in Richmond will stop in the liquor store and buy a case of beer on their way home to Tsawwassen. This is not uncommon. So I think we're overreacting. Let's amend the motion to the sizes of those parks that staff have recognized need to be changed. And let's potentially eliminate, I'm going to say McLean and Minero, just because 3 is enough. I think we can make a pilot and see how successful it is with 3. And, you know, let's trust the citizens of Richmond. I believe they're responsible. And I think that, you know, this chart here really demonstrates that. They're responsible. And I think it's an insult to people to say, we know what's best. We're going to control your behavior. I think that's demoralizing and insulting. And I think, I believe in the people of Richmond. I think they can have a picnic with their family, maybe have a baby shower, and have a glass of wine, or have a beer, or have a, you know, whatever. They still are not allowed to be drunk. Those rules do not change. So I'd be willing to move that we eliminate McLean and Minero from the list and go with the new recommendations by staff in the memo of the 23rd, I think it was, that reduces the size in King George, Aberdeen, and Garry Point to a much smaller area.
We'll come back to you on that. Councillor Galanders.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually did vote against this last week, although it's not reflected in the minutes, and I didn't correct the mayor when he counted the opposed. I didn't notice that my name wasn't called, so that, I just want everybody to know that I was opposed to it last week. And I don't think it's that big of a deal. I know there's a few councillors that are very passionate about that we need this pilot. I don't personally see it that way. I don't think we need anything. I don't understand what problem we're trying to solve. I haven't heard anybody saying that it's an issue that they can't drink in the parks. I know that when people do really want to drink in the parks, they do it subtly and it's not an issue. I don't see the need for this. That being said, if it goes through, I'm totally fine with it. I'm not going to vote in support of it, but if it does go through, that's fine. Have the pilot and we'll look at it after that. Just personally, I think it's actually a little more modern to err on the side of caution when it comes to alcohol. I also appreciated the presentation by the doctor last week. I think that drink responsibly is kind of a term from the past, because we now know that any amount of alcohol is unsafe. So, and in Canada, in general, in North America, we excessively drink a lot more than other countries. We don't in Richmond, which is great, so I don't know why we would want to mess with that. Not that it would increase drinking, but I think that everything's fine the way it is. So if this goes through, that's fine, and we can look at it later. If it doesn't go through, I would like to have a public consultation as soon as possible on this, because there's lots of other options that I would support more. I would support things like in some of our parks, we've got gazebo sort of areas, covered areas where people could have events. Right now it's first come, first serve for those areas. Perhaps there's areas that we could have be bookable. So we want to book this gazebo for a family picnic, and then alcohol could be at that gazebo for the people who booked it. Or we could expand our beer garden events to highlight local breweries and craft breweries and other things like that. So I would like to see those kind of options in a public consultation. So I'm not saying no forever, but for me right now, I just see a couple of councillors that really want this, and but I don't see anybody else wanting it. I haven't heard anybody say they want it. I've only heard people say they don't want it. So I personally am not in support, but I'm okay with it if it goes through.
I would just note that if the GP minutes are inaccurate in terms of your opposition, when we get to GP next time, make sure you bring that up when we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Sorry for not bringing it up last week.
Councillor Hobbs, we'll go back to you on your amendment.
Thank you, and through the chair, one amendment is very straightforward, and that would be to drop Minaroo Park from the list for consideration, and just a bit of rationale for that.
Let's move it. Is it seconded? Moved and seconded, go ahead.
Rationale is equally simple. Minaroo Park was just redone. I was just there on the weekend with my grandkids and saw a lot of people, a lot of seniors, a lot of kids. You can apply that to a lot of parks, I know, but that area is for reflection and peace and quiet and tranquility, and surrounded by the hospital, seniors, activities, the lawn bowling, and different housing situations. So I just quite simply don't think it's appropriate. And if you just allow me to make a quick comment about McLean, that area there.
No, we're
Okay.
just talking
All right,
about
we'll
your
keep it
amendment.
simple. Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to call the question then on the amendment to eliminate Minaroo Park. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried with councillors Au and McNulty opposed. Was there something more, or should we go to Councillor Day?
Oh, please go to Councillor Day. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Day.
Thank you, yeah, and in the spirit of cooperation and collaboration, I would vote that, or I would make a move that we drop McLean Neighborhood Park and adopt the smaller areas that are in the memo from staff that we got on June 23rd.
No, the latter part is already, that's the way I moved it.
Oh, it's already, okay, good, so it's just drop McLean Park, given, and my reason.
Just a minute, is that seconded? Moved and seconded, go ahead.
Yeah, McLean Park is a long ways away from the rest of Richmond, and I think that, given that there isn't a police station out there, it's not an unreasonable request. And so, I think 3 is a pretty good number for a pilot project for these 2 whole months. So I would move that we delete McLean Neighborhood Park.
All right, on the amendment, Councillor Hobbs.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I'll support that amendment. And just to add to those comments, again, just looking at the map, it did remind me a little bit of a gerrymandered U.S. congressional district. It looks a little complicated at McLean, and we did hear from the community, so I will support the amendment. Thank you.
Okey doke. I will call the question then on the motion, the amendment to delete McLean Park. All those in favor? Those opposed? It's carried with Councillors Au and McNulty opposed. Okay, so with those amendments, taking out those 2 parks, I'll call the question on the main motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried with Councillors Wolf, Au, and McNulty opposed. Oh, and you again. Councillor Galanders, Wolf, Au, and McNulty. So it is, no, it's carried. It's because 5-4. It's 5-4. Councillor Liu, you voted in favor, right? Yes, I see her nodding her head. Okay, I just remind you of the procedure following from here is that there will have to be a bylaw, and so that's going to come back ASAP. We'll cut out bureaucracy for you. We'll average it out. It took you 6 months, and it'll take you a week. So it's now an average of three months. So with that, forthwith, I'm sure that Tony will come up with something suitable. I don't think that that's going to be very difficult. Okay, that brings us to the balance of the agenda. So on the 2022 annual report highlights.
Recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Day.
Question, I was listening to what Mr. McLean said earlier, and I noticed on page 651 that the Richmond Public Library provided quite a detailed financial report, and I was just wondering, why would the Olympic Oval not have created why would their detailed report not be in the same report? Just wondering.
Jerry?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the Richmond Public Library is consolidated with the city. The Richmond Olympic Oval is a separate corporation. They present their own annual report.
So is it safe to say that the reason this is more vague is because those have been reported previously, and this is just an overview?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, the city provides the annual report just for statutory information. However, the Richmond Olympic Oval, they also prepare an annual report which has quite a bit of detail and information.
Okay. So if you want to get the library information, for instance, we just go to the library, they file their annual report and all their financial details, right?
That's correct.
All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Council remuneration and expenses, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Statement of financial information, moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. That brings us to public announcements. I've just got 2 or 3 of them, if I can find them. First of all, we have the Stevenson Salmon Festival. Remember that we're bringing back the Salmon Festival for its 76th year. This is going to be this coming Saturday. This will be for the first time since 2019 that it's fully public and personal. We'll welcome back the popular Canada Day Parade, the Kids Bike Parade, Salmon Bake, variety of cultural performances and events, all leading up to the fireworks display of the Imperial landing at 10:15 p.m. Also, coming this weekend or right after is the property tax deadline. This is an important deadline. The taxes are due by Tuesday, July 4th. They can be paid online. They can be paid online by credit card. They can be paid by check, but remember, cash is not going to be accepted. And for details on paying your 2023 property taxes, go to the city website. And finally, City Hall is going to be closed on Monday, July 3rd. It normally is closed on the 1st, but that falls on a Saturday. So it's Monday, July 3rd, as part of the Canada Day weekend. Access to online services through My Richmond and the website will remain available 24/7. And just remember, the tax deadline is then on Tuesday, July the 4th. Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 4 bylaws for final adoption with no noted opposition.
So that's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And Development Permit Panel.
Thank you. There are 2 recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on June 14th, 2023, and the Chair's reports for the Development Permit Panel meetings held on March 11th, 2020, and June 14th, 2023 be received for information. And number 2, that the recommendations of the panel to authorize the issuance of development permit for the property at 8100 Number 5 Road and development permit for the property at 12551 Number 1 Road be endorsed and the permit so issued.
Okay, may I have a motion? Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We are now adjourned.